Just a normal Wednesday. Oh, yep, and now we are finally live. Yay! Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sunshine State Happy Hour, powered by...
Powered by Florida Beer Bluff.
It's going to be one of those shows, apparently.
Your video is frozen up, Dave.
Podcast. I'm going to pull this up on my phone that only uses the Wi-Fi to make sure that we are good to go right now. And yeah, things are getting a little crazy, as you can kind of tell. So it is what it is. I do have one interesting piece of news that a lot of people are very excited about. That this summer we are getting a little visit from Allagash White. That everybody seems to be very excited about.
Here in Florida?
A lot of people.
Yeah, Total Wines are getting them in Florida.
Oh, beautiful. It's been a lot of years.
I know.
Trying to find the other Allagash beer that is coming here. River Trip.
Yeah, and it all should be hitting. I know Coral Springs Total Wine should get it by June 5th, roughly, give or take a couple days, because, shipping wise.
You can all see this because it's looking kind of crazy from my point of view, but we have Bill and Dan, Bone Hook Brewing in Naples, Florida, and Bone Hook's been doing quite happening, and some of the stuff that's about to happen for you all.
I didn't hear what you said. I apologize. I heard Bone Hook is doing quite, and then you went out.
It froze.
Yeah, Dave, your connection's pretty bad.
Dave, your internet's going
Yeah,
haywire.
I think we may have to cancel today. No. Yeah, I can't do this.
Now you're good.
Now you're
okay.
All right, so let's hope that this continues to work. Bill and Dan from Bone Hook, thank you so much for coming on. How are you two doing?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Oh, only 2.5 minutes in. That's going to be a great show. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see what's been going on with you, because obviously you started as the tap room. That's how I originally remembered Bone Hook. But now, are you technically, in terms of Collier County, listed more as a restaurant, or are you still a bar? How does that sort of work, and how are you able to sort of maneuver around the legal situations that you've had to deal with the current downturn?
Well, that's a good question. Considering we have a kitchen, so we took over a restaurant that was next door to our tap room, knocked down the wall, and turned the tap room into a brew pub, which I call a brew pub, but it's basically a restaurant that's attached to our brewery, and it has significant impact during these recent phasings we're going through, because we're technically considered a restaurant because more than 50% of our sales derives from our food. Therefore, we were allowed to stay open until March 20th, while all the other bars and breweries were forced to close a week earlier. We were also allowed to reopen 2 Mondays ago, while the breweries and bars are still not allowed to have people inside. So we're very fortunate from the standpoint that we've been allowed to have people back in the place for 3 weeks now.
Interesting, and I have never saw anybody quite do this, but the moment that you opened, the first 25 people through the door received an awesome, Dan, you're already smiling, received an awesome branded Bone Hook Brewing face mask.
Yes, that is correct. I have fortunately, a lot of my fraternity brothers back in the day have gone on to do a lot of great things, and one guy has a manufacturing plant in Brooklyn, New York, that he does ice scrapers. He's pivoted, and he is now doing face masks and face guards, and I called my buddy and say, hey, man, I'll help you out, and why don't you give me 1,000 of these face masks? And sure enough, he ripped them off and sent them down to me, and now we sell them for $5 a piece, but to most of our regulars, I'm giving them out.
Nice.
I'm actually going on a flight Philadelphia the first week of June, and I'm just dying to see someone on the plane with the Bone Hook mask. I'm going to be wearing one. So will my whole family.
That's kind of amazing. All right, so I figure let's do this before we get too deep. I do kind of want to see what everybody is drinking. I especially kind of want to hear what's going on at Bone Hook in terms of some of the amazing beers that you're getting out of that system, Bill. So I will go ahead and start with you if you don't mind.
Well, when I come home, I typically drink out of stainless Yeti, and I have Bone Hook beer on tap. So I'm currently drinking the our Munich Dunkel, and so that one's always it's a 4.7, so it's just an easy drinking beer. I can sit here and relax, and I have to work tomorrow morning, so don't have to get too crazy.
Is that, Dan, Steve, I do apologize, but it's a kind of leads me to an interesting question. Is that a popular style with the people that kind of come to the place in Naples? Because you do have a very heavy snowbird crowd. Yeah, thank you. Is this something that they will generally know about, or do you still have to do a lot of discussion and teaching about a style like that?
There's a high level of education that needs to happen still with something like that. Like people want to know, well, what is it? They see it, especially if it comes in the pint glass. It's dark, and so if someone sees that, what's that? Is that a stout? And it's like, no, it's actually a Munich Dunkel. It's a lighter beer. So there's a high level of education still with a beer like that. Once they taste it and they realize it's a light-bodied, refreshing, easy drinking, and it has that little touch of roastiness, people will typically fall in love with it if they're into the roasty flavor. And then, like I said, at 4.7, it's an easy drinker. So they'll tend to drink 3 or 4 of those, whereas, the 8 or the 9%ers, you're only getting in 1 or 2. So from a sales standpoint, it's a good tool as well.
Dave, you're muted.
We lost him.
Dave, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm being attacked by my daughter on a regular basis, so I kind of have to keep this muted. I apologize. But Dan, I was admiring that little tall boy that you have. What do you have in it?
Oh, yes. This is my new favorite. Let's see if I can put it up there. This is Liquid Laugh Sour. We just recently, I'll take a step back. This COVID opportunity has really given us a lot of chances to kind of refocus on some things. And one of them is canning, which we've never done. And also taking a look at what we have in our Bordeaux barrels, which is what this is. So this was a Belgian triple that has been in our Bordeaux barrels for 18 months. And all the moons kind of aligned to kind of let's bring it out now. And we converted our crowler machine to a canning machine, and we got 16-ounce cans in. We hired a local tattoo artist to do our creatives. And lo and behold, Liquid Laugh Sour was born, and it's a fantastic beer. It's 9% alcohol. The Brettanomyces just went wild on it, and it has a fantastic flavor. To me, it's like almost a Chardonnay with some cherry and apple undertones to it. Pretty amazing stuff.
And I'll be traveling up this weekend to get some.
If we have any left, it's going fast. I'll tell you, it's going fast.
I'll see if we can send some aside. Steve, what are you drinking?
Captain Ron from 26 Degrees.
Of course you are. You want to drink a beer that looks like you on the cover.
The label's on my cornhole board now.
It does. And like I was saying, I was going to drink some Honey Hole Hefeweizen from Bone Hook, but the crowler died, so I went a little bit farther north to Fat Point, and I grabbed their Tropical Pale, which is actually kind of beautiful. It's got a nice, wonderful golden color and a great citrus flavor, which is phenomenal, but it does not sound as amazing as that sour.
No,
And
sounds awesome.
not only am I amazed that you did a sour in Collier County, but if you could, Dan, if you could show the can again, it's kind of interesting because it looks like you're starting a little bit of maybe a rebrand or an additional brand for Bone Hook, because I know that you had a contest to name said character, correct?
Yes, yeah. So once again, it's kind of innovation is part of necessity is the mother of invention. Necessity is the mother of invention. So we had time in our hands. You know, it's middle of March, and that is literally the peak moment for Bill. And he is going to brew as much beer as possible for the next 6 weeks. And then, boom, March 20th, no more beer. So now what do you do? Right? So we kind of pivoted and did a lot of different things. And what ended up happening is I called up our distributor and said, hey, listen, check the dates on all your on all of our kegs, because I don't want anything to go bad. I'll do whatever I can to save our beer. And sure enough, they worked with us and sent back a bunch of stuff. And I talked to Bill and said, hey, listen, why don't we, I think it was even Bill's idea. He said, why don't we convert our Seamer from a 32-ounce can to 16 and 12 and start canning? We have time. And we don't have to brew any more beer. And I need to bring people in to do it. And the government, through the PPP program, the Payroll Protection Program, wants me to hire people. So you put all those moons together. And in the meantime, I had this local tattoo artist that was looking for work. And I said, you know, my vision is like a skull that had a happy face, but his face melted off. Show me what you got. And that's exactly what he came up with. I said, don't change a thing. This is fantastic. And let's go from there. And then, you know, I said, let's try something else. You know, we'll start with.
I don't think people appreciate like what you did though, because you're doing one can at a time now.
Literally one can at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
That's insane.
At their best pace, our guys can do 6.5 cases an hour.
Wow.
And we have them scheduled to work 12-hour days for the next 16 days to keep up with demand, which is a good problem. But eventually we need to kind of move forward and work on a mobile canning unit or a canning line, which Bill's helping us get us to that point. But to further on with, you know, the idea of this one can, I said, okay, well, let's start doing a bunch of, got to can more beer. So the next one he came out with was Wicked Seas, which is just basically our New England IPA with a lighthouse in the back. And, you know, once again, I said, give me a stormy sea and let's throw a lighthouse in there. This is literally what he came up with. And I said, that's it, done. That's perfect. And then I said, listen, we need a mascot, you know, like, why don't we go with a mascot? And my particular angle there was I come from my cousin was a humongous Iron Maiden fan back in the 80s. And he had all the album covers, and their mascot was Ed, which is basically a skeleton. And every one of their record covers was Ed doing something different. Like, for example, Aces High was Ed as a World War II fighter pilot. And he had the old school helmet on, the goggles. And then there was Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, which was Ed as a cyborg. And it was just all of these different, or maybe it's Strange and a Strange. Either way, point was, I'm not a very creative person. And I just didn't want us to spend hours and hours haggling over what is our new label going to look like. So why don't we just come up with a central character that can do all of these things down the road? And then it just becomes easy. And it just becomes the function of how do we put our character into a label and a name that makes sense. So we threw it out to the public. I said to our tattoo artist, okay, I want him to be bald. I want him to have bone hook earrings, a mohawk, a Fu Manchu made out of grain, and as a skull. And that's what he did. It looked perfect. I threw it out on social media and said, hey, why don't you guys name this thing? And that's when I realized we kind of had caught we had caught fire, because we had over 250 people comment on it. People started to get into fights over, it's too scary, it looks like a pirate, I'm never coming to your place. And people were defending me saying, listen, Dan just said, name it. He didn't care what your opinion, and I wasn't saying anything. I was just more than happy that people were engaged and involved in coming up with the character's name. Come to find out, we decided to name him Scully. So Scully is now our like Bone Hook mascot, and he will be relatively featured in a lot of our cans going forward. So the newest can we have coming out is going to be called the Grateful Head, and it is basically Scully. And it's a fantastic light beer. and it's going to be coming out probably in the next 3 weeks.
That's amazing. It's funny. Steve and I have not actually been to Bone Hook together, but we did go together to the restaurant that used to be in the space that Bone Hook's seating area is at now. I think Steve would readily agree with me that it's much better as Bone Hook, even though he hasn't been to Bone Hook.
I think we actually talked about that night when we were walking past it. We were like, why doesn't the brewery buy this space? Like, it just makes sense.
But I do find it interesting that you have mentioned that you're the first person to say opportunity. I always say downturn, but glasses half.
Whatever. It has not been a downturn. I'm telling you.
Which is great for you. But my question is, going to the brewery previously, pre-COVID, there wasn't a space for can pickup. There wasn't a space for anything that was pre-filled. Now that you're going to start doing these and that you started doing these, have you taken a space in the restaurant floor that is going to be can or pre-packaged just from here on out?
Well, we have cooler space with see-through windows that we can put the cans in, but it's currently underneath the bar. So very shortly, we're going to move that out. So we have a small, not small, 20 by 30 foot room that we call the special events room. It's also where we house most of our retail and apparel. We're going to put one of those there so it can be almost a help yourself. Also be able to display the cans. I mean, I honestly think they're a work of art unto themselves, and it's a shame that they can't be displayed more prominently in the place. We actually have empty cans now as kind of a placeholder on every table so people can see it. But to answer your question specifically, yeah, we'll have a cooler space in our retail area so people can kind of pick their own, mix and match.
Perfect. And obviously, Dan, you're obviously talking about sort of the seating area. Bill, have you been able to really start to play around and mess with recipes, things that you maybe not have really been able to do before because you've been pumping out so much?
It's actually the opposite because, things did slow down. It has been an opportunity for us to, like Dan said, to kind of reconfigure things. But things that at one point were at a standstill. We were essentially not doing much of anything for about a month. So my focus was redesigning. Some of the equipment was in a place we didn't care for. So I had moved a bunch of equipment. That takes time, walking 15 barrel fermenters and double stack 8 barrels are, with a pallet jack, just, take your time and move the glycoline. So I was actually able to experiment more when we were pumping out, product just before all this happened. We were in the middle of our season and, at the height of our season. So I'm busy as hell trying to keep up with our stuff. But at the same time, our specialty beers in the brew pub are just going mad because there's so many people there. So that gives me more of an opportunity at that point to design new stuff and try new stuff, especially because we know it's not going to be here for long. So get it out while people are there and let them try it. And if it's successful, then we know we got something that, we want to bring back. And if it's something that doesn't sell quite as fast, then, maybe we put that one on the back burner for a redesign or something. So right now things are still a little slow. We got an abundance of beer that we're trying to move through with the cans, and people are starting to trickle back into the tap room. So that helps a lot. So, we're hoping that with the launch of the cans, that gives me more of an opportunity again to start playing around. But my nature is experimentation. Trying new things. I love brewing new batches. I love brewing new recipes. I love taking the old recipes, and old styles and breathing new life into them. So,
Bill, I totally disagree with you. I disagree completely, and I'm going to cue you up for this one. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Necessity is the mother of invention. 5 weeks ago, I never had time on my hands. I finally did. So what did I do? I applied for a winery license, which would I was going to actually have to hire a lawyer, and he quoted me $8,500. I'm like, well, we're never doing cider because I can't do it. I did it in 2 days. We now have a wine license. We have the right to do ciders. Bill?
Yeah. I've made a couple batches of cider, so I'm tweaking that currently. We started out with a more of a traditional semi-dry, off-dry cider. And then from there, I've got a lot of flavors I'm going to work with. Currently got a 30-barrel tank full of the base cider. And from there, I want to try some stuff. I've got some cherry juice on hand, some peach juice. So I want to play around with those flavors and work with that.
I'm going to go on record. Within 1,000 days, we will have the #1 cider in the state of Florida. There's no doubt in my mind. Bill's is so good, and the can is going to be so amazing, and it's such in high demand in the state of Florida for a cider that I'm going on a limb right now. We'll have the #1 cider in the state of Florida. Mark my words.
Those are some big words, my friend.
Yeah.
My wife is
Hey, go big or go home, baby. That's it. That's what this is all about. That might be the liquid laugh talking, but I don't care. We're going after it. We're not slowing down for anybody. Believe me.
Well,
Bill's first attempt at a large scale cider. It's incredible. It truly is incredible. It may be the best thing he's ever done, and he's got 6. There's 6 of them on my mind that he's done in the last 6 months that I keep saying are the best beers he's ever done. But to do this cider the first time, first batch, it's going to be some good stuff. I'm telling you.
Well, my wife is the cider aficionado in the family, so
we're invite her over.
You have no problem with that, obviously.
Right. All right.
And obviously, you've got the kitchen, and I assume that the kitchen's been able to do to-go stuff. Bill, once you got into the brew house, how much conversation have you had with the kitchen? How much conversation have you had, especially with the ciders and the other stuff that you're playing with? Because I would assume that if you're going to make a Hefeweizen, if you're going to make a Dunkel, that has a very specific and very standard sort of set of plates with it. But if you take the sour that Dan has, what are some things that the kitchen can probably pair with that? Have you had a lot of communication as you start to experiment and start to create new stuff?
We haven't had a lot of that going on yet. I'm still just coming into 1 year with Bone Hook. And when I came in, it was a giant undertaking. I went from the brewery I was with, I had a 5-barrel system and 3 5-barrel fermenters. So I went from that to the Bone Hook, who had a 15-barrel system, 9 30s, 3 15s, and 2 8s. So the production level went to a level that I haven't experienced before. So I had months of tweaking the equipment to where I needed it to be. I wasn't up to the standard that I was happy with. And that took months. The boiler needed a lot of work. The mill needed work. So these things took months. And then when I finally got a handle on things, season was coming around. So then next thing you know, we're in season and we're putting out, 15 pallets of beer every week, and I didn't have time to talk to anybody. And there were days where Dan would come in the brewery, and I'd be like, "You get 5 minutes, man. I'm coming on 12 and a half hours a day. You got 5 minutes. What do you need from me? And then I'll be back tomorrow. You know where to find me." So I haven't had a lot of opportunity to do much with the kitchen. I look forward to doing that at some point. But we've worked a little bit together. I did a coconut cream ale. So our chef came in and he toasted, just boxes and boxes of unsweetened coconut for me. And so we've added that to the cream ale, and it was outstanding. So and then on top of that, he turned around and made a coconut ice cream. So we've got that freedom and that ability to be able to do that. Moving forward, we hope to be able to get the time to sit down and coordinate things like that as well.
I'll just add too, from a standpoint of collaborations with our head chef. Our first brewer, for lack of a better word, was unapproachable. And couldn't really relate very well. While Bill is very open-minded, very grounded, and is willing to step out of his comfort zone to try new things, which is amazing. I mean, just coming to work for Bone Hook on what he said to me is just amazing. And he's very inspiring, has inspired our staff just from a standpoint of hey, being uncomfortable is okay. Pushing your limits is fine. Bill had a perfectly great job. And I don't know, excuse me for a second. I don't know many people who would have pushed themselves for no real reason than just to better themselves as a person, to come over to Bone Hook and take the challenge that he didn't have to prove anything to anybody. He's a hell of a brewer. Bone Hook isn't making him a better brewer. And he came here and pushed himself to a place, to a whole new level. And it's frightening. That's the tip of the iceberg, but it really is. And now he has worked so hard. He hasn't been here a year yet, which is incredible. I feel like he's been here the whole time. Out of season is when our out of season is usually June through September, is when we kind of step back and say, okay, what are some things we can do coming into October, November that are going to be fun? And, we're going to have something like the Brewers Lounge, where people will come in and drink with Bill, and he'll kind of go over things with them. And we'll have specialty dinners that he kind of celebrates his new drinks with what our chef is making. All things that are coming down the road. But really the first year for Bill was, hey man, just catch up to speed. Like, make all these beers your own, make this brewery your own. And that takes years. And he did it in 6 months. So, the next step will be more of the pairings and that kind of thing.
That's amazing.
More of the pairings and new beers and new products too. The cans are, that's going to be that's exciting, and that's something I've always wanted to do. So it's exciting to be able to work with Dan on that. So, and Dan's been open-minded the entire time as well. We came into this not sure how we were going to work together. And again, it took a few months for us to get that feel. But the last 2 months, I would say, before that, we were getting along perfectly fine. But this last 2 months, I think that he and I have been able to connect on a very much higher level than I anticipated. And we're on the same level, and we're seeing eye to eye on what Bone Hook needs to do. And we're ready to take this thing, all the way to the top.
That's exciting. I definitely am looking forward to heading back and sitting down with both of you. I think we lost Dan for a little bit, but I am going to go ahead and give you the final question, even though you've kind of explained it a lot, which is remarkable, but I am curious as to whether anything else is going to happen down the pipeline. As a brewer, obviously with the coronavirus, we have had to make, a number of bizarre changes and differences with how we operate normally. Is there anything that you would like to do, or you are possibly going to be doing here in the next little bit, that you think, hey, we're back.
All right, hold on. My computer couldn't handle Bill's compliment, and it just shut itself down. That's it. We can't do this anymore.
Nice.
No, I wasn't plugged in. I apologize.
No, you're fine. I was just telling Bill that actually, I'm going to scratch that. If we've got a great connection, I do have one more question, just sort of about Collier County in general. How are things doing? How is the craft beer community doing there? Are you concerned that between Collier and Lee, we're going to lose a couple more breweries? Because I know late last year, Bury Me kicked the bucket, no pun intended. Do you think we're going to be losing anybody else? Have you heard anything? How hard is this going to be to sort of revamp?
Well, I'm not one to spread rumors, so I won't. I just think we're in such a difficult time, not just for breweries or brew pubs or restaurants. I mean, I just look at like StubHub. Congratulations, you're out of business for the rest of your life. Any musician in the world can't make $1. I don't know where our world is going, and it's sad. As I will say that if it wasn't for the COVID virus, Bone Hook would never be where we are and would never have reached its full potential. And that's, I understand it, nothing to say, but it's an honest truth. And we just happen to have the right things happen at the right time and pivoted where we should. What will our county do over the next 9 months? Will people come back for tourism and come down in October? I don't know. Will airlines allow people to come down? Will people come in July instead of November because they're sick of being up north? I tell everybody, I don't know what's going to happen next week, and it's unfair for me to try to lead you next week. I will tell you what we're going to do today. And then tomorrow we'll wake up, and if something changes, then we'll change accordingly. And we got to be nimble, and we got to be quick. We got to move fast, and we got to fight like hell to stay alive. That's it.
Yeah, and David, you mentioned Bury Me. I don't know if you realized my past. That was my project, Bury Me. I was a quarter owner of Bury Me. I started Bury Me, and you're right. They went out of business. I left 2 years ago. There were some differences in opinion for us as owners, and my best course of action was to go ahead and vacate the business. So it's weird how things work out, though. I left Bury Me. A year later, they closed, and I'm with Bone Hook, the second largest brewery in Southwest Florida. So things work out and things work in mysterious ways, and here we are. I think this unfortunately will close places. I don't know about locally, but I know we've already seen how many breweries in the news aren't going to reopen their doors, and I get it. This is a very, very difficult situation for a lot of people. So what this has done, I think, for myself personally, and I think Dan as well, is it's taught us to think about what could happen that we weren't maybe thinking about. There has been a lot of lessons learned here, and if you survive for this, you should be stronger in the long run.
And it's funny because we've spoken to other breweries before, and they were sort of counting on this time frame, because this was really the big tourism, the big sports, the big season for them. And so a lot of people sort of counted on this to stay alive. And now that this has been taken away from them, there's a good possibility, they unfortunately will not be with us, which is the ebb and flow of doing business at such a crazy time. But it's great to see that Bone Hook is doing so well. And, having spoken to Dan several times and being there, I expected nothing less, which is
awfully nice of you.
I tell it like it is. So I will go back to the regular question that we end every show with. You have described this quite a bit. Curious as to whether anything else is sort of coming down the pipeline. Because with COVID-19, with the economic downturn, with the coronavirus, quarantine, yada, yada, so on and so forth, we've had breweries that have had to make a lot of bizarre changes, things that were outside the norm for them. And have you seen any things that you are continuing to do or trying to implement at Bone Hook, or that you've seen other breweries do, that you think should be part of craft beer moving forward? Every craft brewery should just do this.
Oh, no doubt. So you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I'll go ahead.
No doubt in my mind, and it's already happened. I'll give a shout out to one of our brethren, Palm City Brewing Company. The idea of online purchasing of beer, which we will go live next Friday. We're going to call it Beer and Gear, which is going to be integrated e-commerce on our website. There's no doubt in my mind, you should be able to order beer from every one of your local breweries online and have it delivered to your house. It's a no-brainer. That's what this world is going to. If you've ever been a part of Amazon stock, and if you live in the Bilzor household, something from Amazon shows up every day. There's no doubt in my mind, why can't you have beer delivered from all over the country to your place? That's what America's about, especially this day and age. Like, if you want it, you can get it. So come on. Like, that's what, there's no doubt in my mind. Simple answer.
I can't say there's anything, happening that I've seen innovation-wise that should stay, other than just, trying to reach your customers in ways that you maybe haven't before considered. Again, this has taught us that there's lessons to be learned here. And we really need to strive to take these lessons, and learn from them so that our business can grow and sustain things that we maybe not, would have never thought to try to deal with.
That is excellent. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I do appreciate it. So, Bill, Dan from Bone Hook Brewing, if you are in Naples or if you're going by, I do recommend them. They are one of the best breweries in the area. Having the food there has only been a bonus, and it sounds that they've got a lot of great things in the future. I will be checking back with Dan occasionally throughout the 1,000 days and making sure that the cider promise is being kept.
Put it on the books. Yep.
Make sure that happens. Tomorrow, we are going to be hitting the road, and we are heading to, we are speaking with Revolution Brewing, who just announced yesterday that they are partnering with Jepson's Malort to make a anti-hero IPA version of that particular brand of gasoline from hell. If you've ever had Malort, you understand. If you've never had Malort, consider yourself lucky, but we're going to be talking Revolution Brewing tomorrow about that. So Bill, Dan from Bone Hook Brewing, and Steve, as always, thank you so much for coming on the show. I do appreciate it. I will let Bill get back to that stainless steel beer that he loves ever so much. Gentlemen, thank you all so much for coming on, and everybody have a great rest of your evening. Goodbye.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.